And President Obama pushing hard on health care, believing it is one of the most important issues, he has said, of our time and certainly of his presidency. But meanwhile, take a look at what our polls are saying. This is an interesting take on what people, what the perception is about all of the health care information that's out there right now. Check out these numbers. Only 12% choose health care as their #1 concern. It's very interesting. So healthcare comes in fourth when in these Fox News polls they ask people what was most important to you. More than 50% of Americans believe that the economy should be at the very top of that list. And, they put jobs right under that. So the top 3 basically are all economic related. And the fourth issue on the priorities of people in this poll, 12% say they care the most about healthcare. Let's bring in our panel today and go around the horn a little bit here. Juan Williams is senior correspondent at National Public Radio and a Fox News contributor. Pete Seat is the former White House spokesperson under George W. Bush, and Chris Stirewalt, the political editor at the Washington Examiner. Welcome. Juan, let me start with you. I was very struck by these numbers. You think you see these numbers a lot during election periods. What matters to you most? And when you think back to the election period just passed, the Iraq War was at the top of the list, and boy, what a different situation we seem to be in now. But healthcare, only 12% said healthcare was #1 for them. So is the White House misguided in their major effort here?
No, they're reading the same polls you are, Martha, and that's why you saw this week at the press conference the president didn't open with a pitch about health care. He opened with a pitch about the economy and pointing out that health care costs can drag down the economy. They can cripple big corporations and cripple your family budget. Talked about premiums doubling over the last, maybe tripling over the last 9 years, all that kind of thing. But he wanted to tie it to the economy, and it's just because of these kind of poll numbers.
Yeah, but he's having a hard time making that tie. I mean, that is an essential part of this whole argument. Because Pete Seat, the president, comes out all the time and says, rising cost of health care is one of the major reasons the economy is suffering. And I think that that's been a very tough link for him to establish in Americans' minds, Pete.
Absolutely, and I think that poll numbers like this should really make the White House think twice about their insistence to try and juggle so many domestic priorities at one time when we still have an economy that's not back on its feet. And it's obvious that people are concerned. We have over 15 states that have double-digit unemployment numbers, but they are so insistent on getting through this health care plan, which is 70% of the people polled said it was going to raise their taxes, which is not going to help the economy. So they really need to think twice and focus on one thing before moving on to the next.
On the right-hand side of your screen, of course, you see President Obama. At the moment, he is speaking at the Department of Education. We're going to monitor those comments, and we will let you know if, what is said here. If we need to break out, we certainly will do that. Let me bring in Chris Stirewalt. And Chris, there's a couple of other interesting numbers that we have here, and one of them asks the question, do you think the Obama administration has a clear plan for fixing the economy? And 53% said no, 42% said yes. What do you make of that? And why is the Obama administration, apparently, according to a lot of numbers we've seen recently, having a tough time convincing people that they've got a handle on the economy?
Well, and it's the most important question for him right now. It's the one that they worry over at the White House. It's the one that will control the nature of the debate for the rest of this year and maybe the rest of his presidency. Because he's really, if you take all the polls and you average them together, you're looking at a 10 or 12-point loss for the president on confidence in handling the economy. Does he have a plan, and can he execute it? The stimulus didn't work in its first phase. The president says it will work in its second phase, that when we get into the fall and into the winter, things are going to start to turn around, and he's going to be able to take some credit for it. But right now, nothing he pitches is going to work as long as people don't think that he can make it work for the economy.
This is always a political opportunity, Juan Williams, for people on the other side. When they see these kind of numbers, they see it as an opportunity to, get people to see things their way. Let's take a look at Tim Pawlenty, who is somebody who has shown all indications that he plans to run the next time around. Here's what he's saying about health care and the president right now.
Healthcare proposal by President Obama is really quite a joke on a number of levels. I think he is scamming the American people, and just on this payment issue alone, even if you believe that he's only going to tax people over $1 million, which I don't think is true, what's going to happen is he's proposing it is that's only going to cover about a third or 25% of the total cost of the package. The rest of it is going to be paid for, quote unquote, by saving waste, fraud, and abuse. And if you believe that, then I've got some January tea times for you in northern Minnesota.
All right, well, that's Tim Pawlenty's take on it. Juan, you know, when you look at all this back and forth, clearly conservatives see this as a real opening.
They do, but the question is, they see it as an opening because what they imagine is that if President Obama is able to get through health care reform, if he's able to turn around the economy, you know what, it's good news for Democrats going into not only 2010, but towards 2012, and then you're looking at 2 terms of President Obama. The key for President Obama in the White House in terms of responding is also in the poll, Martha, where it says that the American people pretty much still think that President Bush and the Republicans are responsible for the problems of the economy. But the question is, how long does that last? Because these are Obama's plans in place now. We just heard about the stimulus not having the effect up front. The unemployment rate, the president says, is lagging, but most Americans are disappointed that we haven't seen that come down. So how long do people have patience going forward? Tim Pawlenty says, you know, it's all a scam, but I think that what Tim Pawlenty wants to do is clearly right now say this is President Obama's responsibility, not President Bush's.
It's interesting. I think, and the poll that you mentioned is the next one that I wanted to tell people about, and that is who is more responsible for the current state of the economy. 16% only say that President Obama is responsible for the economy. 61% are blaming Pete Seat's former boss, President Bush. So 61% still blaming Bush. So, you know, Obama's got to feel happy that that's buying him a little bit of time. So we're going to watch this very closely, of course, and some interesting numbers. Thank you very much to all of you. And Juan, before we leave, I want to mention that Juan has a new book called Eyes on the Prize, which I think you have a picture of. So congratulations on the new book, Juan, and we wish you well on that. Good thing to pick up for everybody as you head out for your summer vacation. Thank you, sir. Good to have you. Pete Seat, thank you. Chris Stirewalt, always a pleasure. Thanks, gentlemen.